You gotta love YouTube. Always learning from this medium that we have here. I'm always learning from it. So this morning, I get here early, I got my coffee, it's still dark out, and my mission for the day is to pull this thing apart and get ready to pull the motor. And we'll talk about all this in a couple of minutes. So I sit down, this is only catch up on the world, and I sit down at the computer and I go to YouTube and I put in Slant Six because I'm in a Slant Six state of mind, right? So the video pops up that was done a couple of days ago. And this is an engine, this is a guy, his name is Glenn Everett, he's an Australian engine builder. Glenn Everett, master of machines. I need a title like that, right? That's awesome. So Glenn built a Slant Six, the specifications of which are actually pretty close to what we have here, with one major exception. Instead of the single 4-barrel intake manifold, we use an Offenhauser with a 650 Holley double pumper. He used a set of Webers with velocity stacks. And he made 280 some odd horsepower with this engine, which is extremely strong for a normally aspirated slant. So I'm watching the video and he's dyno testing this engine. And what I see right away as they're running the motor up through the range is that there's a cloud of reversion hanging off of each carburetor. So here, picture this now, right? So here's the engine, okay, and here's the carburetors, and here's the velocity stacks, and as the motor is coming up against the dyno, there's actually a cloud hanging out right here of reversion. So, or here, picture, my hand is the carburetor, this is the velocity stack, and each velocity stack has a cloud like this that's pulsating in sympathy with the intake valve opening and closing. Very interesting, and this goes back to the debate we had earlier when we were talking about what intake manifold, what intake setup we were going to use, and a lot of guys were like, use a set of Webers, use inlines, use whatever it happened to be. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, I think I want to stick with this. Well, watching that video, it definitely changed my mind, or I should say solidified my decision. I really think this is the best way to go. And I'll explain to you why. And I'm not knocking what Glenn did. The engine is beautiful. It's a jewel. It makes fantastic horsepower. No question about it. It's a good combination. But I think a common plenum, for our application at least, I think a common plenum is the best way to go. So that cloud of reversion, here's what the reversion is. We've talked on this channel a lot about sonic tuning, sonic pulses, ram induction, and all of that. And we did the video on the tunnel ram a couple of weeks ago, where we were explaining how the sonic pulse, the column of air and fuel is moving this way, the intake valve closes. When the valve closes, that column stops and there's a sonic pulse that heads back up the runner, and they all meet at the plenum. The plenum, I believe, has a strong homogenizing effect that actually helps solidify that pulse and send it back uniformly. On his combination, where that pulse, where that reversion was coming out, so again, now the intake valve closes, the column that's coming this way hits the intake valve, it starts heading back this way, and instead of homogenizing in the plenum, it's just kind of lost to the atmosphere. I'm not saying all of the pulse is gone, but enough of the pulse is gone that you can actually see its visual representation. Because as it's coming back this way, it's taking air and fuel, and you've got this fog of air and fuel happening outside, the engine there. Very interesting. I've never seen that happen before. I've seen 1,000 dyno tests on engines with carburetors, with stack injection, and I've never seen reversion like that. I have seen it on motorcycle videos, but not to that extent. Like you'll watch a motorcycle engine come up, and you'll see when they use like a stub stack, you'll see a little bit of a fog, but not much. This was very pronounced, like you couldn't miss it. It was its own entity happening outside, the range of the induction system. So I think a good bit of torque was being thrown away in that particular situation. And again, I'm not knocking. The engine is a jewel. It's beautiful. But I'm firm in my conviction now to stick with a common plenum intake manifold, because I do believe that that plenum helps to capture and refine that pulse, so that when it does go back, it goes back with a force. It's possible that because it's a Slant Six, the reverse flow nature of the cylinder head, you know, with the intake and the exhaust being on the same side, that may have something to do with it. And his choice of exhaust may have something to do with it too. A lack of scavenging on the exhaust side. He used a set of Dutra duals, which are essentially cast iron exhaust manifolds. The original version of it was they used to take two stock cast iron exhaust manifolds, then cut them and re-weld them in such a way that you had two 3-into-1 manifolds with two outlets. So they used that setup because of the type of, it was a streetcar, so the type of application they were using, that worked better for them than the long tube headers. We used the long tube headers with with collector extensions, and this seems to work really well. So it is possible that the characteristic of the Slant Six cylinder head being reverse flow and those exhaust manifolds might have contributed to that factor and made it as extreme as it was. I don't know. I'm still, like, it's still going through my head. I'm still trying to work it all out. But as I said, our mission here, after we got done with the video, we pulled all of this stuff apart. The mission here is to get this short block out. The crank's got to get sent out and get turned. That oil pan, which is the only real major glitch we had with this whole build so far, we're going to build a deep sump, and we're going to build a, I can't really show it to you now the way it's sitting in the car, but I'm going to make a cardboard mock-up before I pull it out so that I can contour it around the steering link. I don't want to have to fabricate a whole different steering link. But it's going to get a deeper pan, and it's going to be built in such a way so that the oil, as it heads back, can't go up. So that's the next mission with that. Everything else looks good with it. The cylinder head looks good, the pistons look good. A lot of carbon, but that's because we had so many carburetor issues, so many tuning issues going into this thing. And but this, like I said, the cylinder walls look really nice. Everything looks good. The head looks good. The valve train looks good. I do have to get shorter push rods. This is a mixed match set that I had to use, but we'll straighten all of that out now. And that's it. We're off to the races, you know, as soon as the track opens up again. That's it. Something to think about. Take a look at that video. Uncle Kathy put a link to it right here. Yeah, this is where it goes. Here. Uncle Kathy put a link to it right. Why can I never get that right the first time?
I don't know.
All right, so she'll put the link to it over here. Go watch that video. Give this guy a sub. He seems like a really competent, like, you know, he's a good builder. And that's it. I'll see you tomorrow.